Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Tonight we're going to look at how we can peek messages from a RabbitMQ queue without actually taking the messages. So let's say, and this should be done from a Spring Boot application. So let us say that we have a lot of messages in a queue. Then we would like to look at maybe 10 messages and then nicely put them back so they can be handled later on. So it's a kind of a peek functionality where you look in at the messages and then you just and then just reject them and requeue them. This project, if this project seems familiar to you, then it's because I've earlier showed you how to create a consumer and a producer in two different modules in a project like this, in an IntelliJ project like this, in a Gradle project like this. And this is the project that I've continued to build on. First of all, I wanted to generate some messages, and I added that to the producer. So if we go here down to produce messages REST controller right here, then I added this method compared to the last time when we looked at this. And what we're doing here is that we're actually generating a number of messages. That means that I can curl to this endpoint right here, API generate. Then I can write in the path. This is a path variable. How many messages do we want to auto generate? Then I have a for loop right here, and then I'm creating a new message right here. This message is generated, and then the number or the index number, and then the current time in seconds, like in epoch seconds. And I'm using the method just above right here. So this is a method that we created last time, where we could we could post to this endpoint right here, API message, and then the body of this post would then be sent with the Rabbit template. It would then be sent to my exchange 1 without any routing key blank. And here we create a new message over here, get bytes, and we're using UTF-8 and just an empty empty message properties. That is what we did, and the string is put in the message right here that I marked right here. So this is how to produce the messages. And we made this setup so smart that when we start up the producer application, then it actually creates the exchange for us. That means that we have a dynamic configuration. When the producer starts, then it creates the exchange automatically. So that means right here, we're using the RabbitAdmin to create the exchange, my exchange 1. It does not know if these messages are being used to anything, because that is the consumers. Let's say we have 200 consumers, right, that needs to listen for these messages. Each consumer would then create a new queue, and that's exactly what they do right here. So config rabbit define queues right here. So that means that we're actually creating a new queue right here. Post construct. That means when an instance of this class has been created, then we will run RabbitAdmin declare queue. I'm calling this my queue1, and that means that let's say we had 200 consumers. Of course, they would have to figure out to have unique queue names, of course, and then the consumer also automatically at startup creates the binding between the exchange, my exchange 1, and the queue that it needs to listen to. This is a very dynamic setup, and it is very smart. Then we can just start up our applications, and then the configuration is already there. I've already started these two applications right here. So that means that if I go to a browser, then I can see that I have the queue, my queue one right here. I have created the my queue manually. I just created that manually, and I bound it to the same exchange. And my exchange 1, and that is because all the messages that ends up in my queue1, they will be handled by the consumer right away. So they will be handled, and we cannot see them being placed in the queue, because they will just be handled so fast. The RabbitMQ performs really, really good. So they will just be handled as soon as we place them there. The my queue, on the other hand, there's no listener for the my queue. So that means that when we place when messages end up in a my queue, then they will stay there until we do something about them. And I would like to peek in the my queue. So that is the task at hand. I have created this reject package right here, and in here I have created a peek REST controller, which I have right here. That means that I can actually curl this endpoint right here, API peek, and then a number of messages. And the path variable is the number of messages. That means that I can say, please look at at 10 messages and then put them nicely back again. But how do we do this technically? That is the question, right? The magic is done right here. So I have a loop right here which will run X number of times. And then I'm using the Rabbit template. It has something called execute. And execute can do something. It can actually, it takes a channel callback as an argument. That means that I've created a class that implements the channel callback right here. And then whatever we fill in this method right here, do in Rabbit, that is what we will actually do. And what we are doing is that we are getting a message and we are setting auto acknowledge to false. I'm looking at my queue, in the my queue. If there's no message, then I'll just return null. Or else, if the message is not null, then I will create a basic reject and then requeue true. That means that the message will instantly go back in the queue. Then we will return a copy. We will actually create a new message that looks like the original message. So we will actually take a copy of the body and also the properties and the envelope, and then we will return a new instance of the message afterwards. So this is what does the magic right here. So and you can also use this for a lot of other purposes. You can create a new class that implements channel callback, and then you can do some Rabbit actions if that's what you want to do. Let us go back to the controller. That means that right here I have a message, Rabbit template.execute, and then this reject and read message class. It takes a new instance of that. If the message is null, then we break the for loop, because that means that there's no more messages in the queue, so I will not continue to run my loop. If it's not null, then I'll take out the body. I will add the body to the result, which I've declared up here. And then I will also lock the message body peak. Let us write that right there. And then in the end, I will return the total result. I think we should actually add a new line also, like this. I've already started up my application, so let me just restart the consumer. Stop and rerun. And then I've also prepared some scripts, because first of all, we need to generate the messages. And I have created those scripts in the script folder right here. I have the generate script right here, and you can see I'm using 9080 for the producer and 9085 for the consumer. So I'm using different ports because I actually have two different applications running this time. So let us look right here again. We have my queue, there's 0 ready messages, and Mike, there's 0 ready messages also in that one. Let us try to generate some messages. 400 is a bit much, isn't it? So let us just generate 100 messages. Run the file. We can go look in the log, in the producer. There's nothing there, but in a consumer there's a lot right now, because the consumer automatically listens for the MyQ1 where all of these messages will end up in. It does not listen to the MyQ, so that means that we got all the messages already in the consumer right here, so we can see that the messages were generated as expected. And now if you go to the MyQ, we can see that we have 100 messages, which are exact copy of the ones that we actually had in the MyQ1. Now I would like to take those messages and I would like to peek at them. Of course, I could use the UI. I could go down here and then I could get some messages, and it's actually the exact same thing we're doing. We're not acknowledging them and requeuing them. Let us just get one message just for fun. Here I have one message. The message is generated, and then 0. That's because it's the first index, and then that is the time in seconds. Let us go back to our Spring application, because now I want to pick. So let us pick 5 messages to begin with. And it is actually the same message we actually are picking right here. So that means that we should actually change our code a bit. We can see the index here is still 0. That means that it's the same messages that we are returning that we actually get again. But we can actually see we are actually picking. We are actually getting 5 messages. Let's say if we run once again, let us just see what happens. It is still the index 0 we get. Okay, so let us see if we can do something about that. So we go to the consumer, we go to the reject and read message. Let us try to add the for loop in here instead. So let us say that we create a for loop in here. So we say for int I equals. Or we could actually also we could create a I equals 0 and then I less than 10, I plus plus. And then we extract these messages. So before we are rejecting them, yeah, the problem is that we are actually rejecting them right away, and then we get the same message again. We would actually like to have different messages actually. So we would like to have different messages. How could we handle this? It's actually a good question, because this is actually only made so this is made so we should actually only get one message returned right here. I have to think about this. Right now it actually only works for one message at a time. Yes, I changed the code a little bit so we can actually pick multiple messages. And what I did was that I went to the reject and read messages right here that implements the channel callback. Then I said that this returns a list of messages instead of just a single message. And right now I've just hard coded that it's 10 messages that will be picked. And right here we are picking a message 10 times. We are adding it to a list messages right here. So this is the message list that we will add it to. And then when we are done with that, the first message that is null, then we will break, because then we know that there's no more messages. And then down here for each message that we actually extracted, then we will basically reject them and requeue them like this. And also right here, then we will add them to the result, and then we will return the result as a list of messages right here. Let us see if this code actually works instead. So I will start up the producer, and I need to start up the RabbitMQ. So let's just do that. Docker compose terminal. Yeah, we haven't started the RabbitMQ yet. Docker compose up. Docker compose up like this. So now the RabbitMQ is starting. Then we can start the producer afterwards as soon as the RabbitMQ says now I'm ready. Yes, now it's ready. So now we press the play button. Then we go, and then we also start the consumer and press play on that also. And then we go to the UI, and this is actually the Stack Overflow example that I was inspired by. Right here, so let me just go to the management console, queues, mic, and right now we have 99 messages in the mic queue. Let us try to pick some of those without we just pick them and then we put them back again. So let us see what happens if we run the script. The peak script is right here. I would like to peak 5 messages. Let us try to run again. It said, yeah, okay, there they are. And it's actually not 5 minutes, it's 10 messages, because that is hard coded inside the reject and read message class that I created right here. Right now it's hard coded. Of course, we could also have set it as an argument. So let us do that. I'll have this private final and in messages like this, and then we add that as a constructor. This is an integer, a constructor parameter. Like this. So now we have a constructor with the number of messages, and then we can use the number of messages. Here we can just say messages instead. And when we use it in the REST controller, then we can say that we want a new Yes, exactly. Reject and read messages, and then we pass on the number of messages that we want to extract. So let us try to restart the consumer. Restart, stop and rerun. Thank you very much. And that is a consumer application. Let us find our peak. So now it should only be 5 messages that we're reading. This message is generated 1, 2, 3, 5. So that is awesome, right? So, and we actually have 90, so we could write 55 or something instead, like if that's what we want to do. And yes, then we get all these messages right here, and they have index 1 to 55. I'm very proud of myself right now, and you can see that the messages, they have not been, we still have 99 messages in our queue, so that means that we have not lost any messages. We just peaked in the messages, and then we could, maybe it's a dead letter queue we want to peak in, and we just want to see what's going on, and maybe we want to program something. Maybe we could handle some of them in a certain way, or something. We could do something special with some of the messages, right? Then we can pick them, and then we can put them back if we could not handle the situation anyway. I think we succeeded, actually. This was really, really good. This was really, really good. Yeah. A producer, a consumer, a class that implements the channel callback, and then we can choose whatever we want to return right here, a list of messages as we have it right here, and then we just basic reject them and requeue set to true. We succeeded. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great evening. Hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.